Welcome to the Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, and I'm joined again for this fabulous Family Foundation Friday by our co-host, Mr. David Walls of the Family Foundation. Dave, thanks for joining us again, brother.
It's good to be with you, Greg. It would be fabulous if the Lord turned the temperature and the humidity down a little bit outside.
Yeah. I think you brought that with you from Texas, man, I tell you. But you know what? Today is a little bit better day. We're recording this. It is a little bit better, so we thank him for that. Let me ask you this before we jump into our issues. We talked a little bit last week because Father's Day was coming up. Now we're on the other side of it. Did you get your rest?
I did on Sunday.
Okay.
I did on Sunday. I took it easy on Sunday,
right.
which I normally try to do.
Right.
But had a good time walking with the Sisters for Life at their event. But we did a lot of walking, Greg.
Yeah. On a nice warm day,
it
right?
was a nice warm day.
Yeah. And I understand they had a good turnout.
They did.
It was good.
They did, and some just a time of prayer and for fathers and for the life issue.
Yeah.
And around the Planned Parenthood there in Louisville. So, but no, had a good Father's Day weekend. Hope you did too.
Well, I did. First of all, congratulations to Angela Purnell Mentor for that Sisters for Life out of Louisville. But we like to report on that because they do stuff all around the state and nation as well. So glad that turned out really well. I had a great time. As you know, and I mentioned last week, I went and spent several hours with my dad. He really enjoyed that. My sister was there. My mother-in-law came by and brought him a piece of strawberry rhubarb pie. So he says, I only like two kinds of pie, hot and cold. And my son has picked up on that, so he uses that same joke all the time. But we still laugh at it. So it was good. And then I got home and all my children and daughters-in-law and my daughter and her boyfriend were there. And so we had a wonderful time. My sister and mother-in-law came over to that as well. Had a great time. So, thank you for asking. We got to say this again. We are right in the middle we're actually on the downhill side. I don't know if it ever stops because the media is so prone to this, but we're right in the middle of Pride Month, or as we like to call it, Child Grooming Month, because everything they promote is trying to convince people that this is okay, and they're promoting sin.
Yeah.
They're literally promoting sin. That's the only reason I say that. We're grooming children their brains are malleable at young ages to think that this is okay.
Yeah.
And it's not. I love the people.
So much of it. So much of it is the marketing and everything about it is targeting
Absolutely.
children.
Children. Yeah.
And as you and I have talked, I mean, we're really in a cultural moment where we need to recognize, Christians need to recognize, we're in a battle for the hearts and minds of the next generation.
Exactly right.
And we certainly had some encouraging news.
Yes, we did.
On some related issues this
we did.
week.
And so we want to talk about that. I know we mentioned a couple of them last week, and one of those was we didn't say much about, but there has been some more developments right here in Kentucky and Tennessee and surrounding states with the Title IX developments. Explain what Title IX is first, just generally, so that our audience knows that, David.
Yeah, so I believe it's over 50 years now.
Yes.
Title IX has been on the books. Federal legislation passed by Congress to essentially provide equal opportunities or greater opportunities in educational contexts, including sports, for females. But it was written at a time where everyone knew what a woman and what a man was. In the context of that bill, doesn't make sense if you don't understand what a man and a woman is, what a boy and a girl is. And so it's been in the news a lot recently because the Biden administration has been essentially trying to undo Title IX and its protections.
As we said last week, he basically gutted it with what he was trying to do.
So he had proposed, there's been a series of things, but there was essentially a set of final rules that would have turned Title IX on its head. And there had been a number of legal challenges. I think, I forget the numbers, Greg, but there was a whole lot of states, attorneys general in multiple states, and a lot of different federal courts had filed suit, including Kentucky and Tennessee had led a coalition of states that had filed a challenge in a federal district court that's based here in Kentucky. And the big news this week was that we had a resounding victory. It's an initial first step victory, but a federal judge here in Kentucky put a halt on the Title IX rules of the Biden administration.
Very strong halt.
Very strong halt. In fact, and I know, occasionally I will read from some legal opinions. I know that's one of our favorite segments.
We get all kinds of great comments about it. But
there's some stuff in here. I knew it was going to be a good decision when the first sentence in the decision
Please share
was,
it. Yes.
there are two sexes, male and female.
Praise the
Now,
Lord.
but no, I mean, what's
Yeah,
interesting, Greg, just
that's
stop
correct.
and think about that. Through all of human history, millennia of human history, that wouldn't even have to be said.
No.
But we're living in such a confused moment culturally, such an confusing moment in terms of what, the Biden administration and others pushing radical gender ideology are trying to bend the law to fit an ideology.
Right. We're back to Pride Month again,
right.
Child Grooming Month, right?
Yeah.
It's literally what's going on.
Right there. But it was a very strong decision. And this is a preliminary injunction. So essentially, put on hold the legal challenge on the merits of the law will continue to play out. But a very, very encouraging sign that we got this injunction put in place. Yes. And I'll read a few other points. The ruling mentioned that the final rule also has very serious First Amendment implications. It says the rule includes a new definition of sexual harassment that may require educators to use pronouns consistent with a student's purported gender identity rather than their biological sex. And it goes on to point out how that could be problematic and cause people have to violate their religious or moral beliefs, and that compelling speech is impermissible. There's just a lot of really good stuff in here. It points out that society's enduring recognition of the biological differences between the sexes, that individuals have a basic right to bodily privacy, and that if the final rule was to go into effect, it would mandate that schools permit biological men into women's intimate spaces and women into men's. Just a host of problems, obviously.
And we've already seen fallout where that has
absolutely.
happened. Horrendous fallout
Right.
where that has happened.
Right. And it's one of the reasons why, Kentucky and numerous other states have passed Save Women's Sports laws to protect female athletics. But this is a really important injunction and decision. It's 93 pages long. And we're very.
So you didn't read all of it.
We have looked through all of it.
Yeah, you have.
But I highlighted some other really strong points.
Yeah.
But folks can go to our website if you're interested. We have a statement out about it, and we link to the ruling as well on our website at KentuckyFamily.org.
Yeah. Well, and we said last week, David, I mentioned it earlier again, that Biden and the administration were really gutting this, and in so doing, taking out all those protections and rights and victories that women had won.
Yeah.
And so even now, a lot of the women that are standing up against that are being blackballed and those kind of things. We're upside down.
Yeah.
Badly so. We're upside down. But on a positive note, you and I talked about this several weeks ago, and you shared with me that when Texas passed the ruling on age verification for porn sites, that there was something great that happened, and we sort of predicted and hoped that it would happen here. Fill our listeners in on what's happened in Kentucky.
Yeah, another real encouraging development over the last week is Pornhub. So it's my understanding, I believe they claim to be the world's largest online pornographic website.
By far, I think. Yeah.
Has announced that they are shutting down access in Kentucky ahead of House Bill 278 that we talked quite a bit about, that Representative Matt Lockett helped carry, and Senator Jay Williams worked on the amendment on the Senate side that added these protections. All the law does to protect kids is it requires meaningful age verification if you're accessing online pornographic websites. And so what Pornhub has done, and some other pornographic websites, they don't want to put those protections in place.
Right.
To ensure that children don't have access, so instead they're just shutting down access altogether. And I think most Kentuckians will agree with this. Good riddance.
What wonderful.
There's a lot more to do,
but
certainly that's an encouraging development and an example of a policy, a law that was passed that has an immediate impact.
Great positive impact, exactly right. And the idea behind that is that, therefore, everyone who gets on their site has to verify.
Right.
So they know that most people, which tells us the reality of porn and pornography, the reality of it is people don't really want to be associated with it. It's dark.
Yeah.
It's destructive.
It is.
The Bible tells us that. We know that. And so that is a great development that we predicted would happen with the law. Glad that's happened. I hope it stays true to
Yeah,
that.
and we've used it as well to remind folks that we have other protections that we need to put in place.
Yes.
You know, we've got just every day we're seeing more news about the continued concern about social media and its impact on children. And you know, there's been other states that have passed age verification on social media, or even looking at, you know, saying we shouldn't allow cell phones at school. So the state of Florida has done that. So I think I'm thankful that this bill went into effect, is having an impact, but Kentucky has a lot more that it can do as we move forward to try to protect kids online.
Yeah. And the online, we could go into the real world where we've talked about, and we need to push this for next session, is where we had the no sex shows for children.
Right.
Same kind of thing. Let's put that in place to protect our children.
Yeah.
So same kind of thing. We also had another development that I think we talked about a little last week, but you might be able to explain a little bit more on the Supreme Court case on the mifepristone, the chemical abortion pill.
Yeah, the chemical abortion pill. We've shared some encouraging news. We are certainly disappointed that the Supreme Court, in the decision that they made. The important thing, though, and you might miss this if you follow some of the media coverage, the Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the underlying challenge.
No,
and this was the case where you had some pro-life doctors that had challenged essentially the illegal way in which the FDA went about approving the chemical abortion pill a number of years ago, and then subsequently, particularly in the Biden administration, removed all the safety precautions that were in place in terms of how it was dispersing it.
Yeah.
And so what the Supreme Court said is that the way that those pro-life doctors filed that challenge, they didn't have the proper standing to be the ones bringing that case. So Lord willing, there'll be someone else that does have the proper standing that could bring that challenge. So we're disappointed that the Supreme Court didn't rule on the merits, because, I mean, the reality is what this means is that the FDA and the Biden administration are going to continue to be able to put the lives of preborn babies and their mothers at risk.
Yes.
You know, the FDA's own label on the chemical abortion pill, Greg, admits that 1 in 25 women will visit the ER after using the drug.
And that's probably about as conservative as you can get when they put that on there, just to make sure they had that warning.
So the battle is continuing on this issue. The other interesting thing in that decision that I'll just mention is that the court did essentially affirm the strong conscience protections of doctors, pro-life doctors, as it relates to this issue. So there was a little bit of a silver lining in the decision.
And the fact is standing, they left it open for those women who are harmed by this to get together, maybe a class, I don't know if it'd be a class action, but a group of them could get together, much like the Title IX thing, and say, we have standing, and we're being harmed. And you're allowing this. So it's still open, and we'll be praying for that. I know we've talked about it a little before. We don't have much time, but we will probably revisit the whole in vitro fertilization thing. That is gaining a lot of ground, and we need as Christians to know what the biblical stand on that would be. And there's a lot of gray areas. Well, at least there's a few, I should say. But there's also a lot that aren't gray.
Yeah, and we shared one quick update is this very concerning bill that was being pushed at the federal level that we had sent an action alert out, didn't end up moving forward in the Senate. And I'm thankful that Senator McConnell and Senator Paul both, I believe, voted against that bill, or that bill moving forward. But certainly that's going to be a topic moving forward.
Yeah, I'm thankful for listeners who contacted them to help with that. So, again, you can contact David at KentuckyFamily.org. Me at loveandlordship.com or loveandlordship@gmail.com is my email. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. I'm Greg Williams with co-host David Walls, and you're listening to The Authority of Love.